All right, let's get moving, shall we? Today we're going to be diving into a career path that I think a lot of people might have some, well, preconceived notions about. We're talking about physical education vocational teachers.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack all of this, we've got some really interesting resources from RoleCatcher. That's RoleCatcher.com, by the way, in case you're looking for them. They're a career guidance platform, and they've got some pretty cool insights into this field.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. When you hear PE teacher, you might think dodgeball and track and field, right? But these folks, they're doing so much more than that. I mean, they're shaping how we think about movement and wellness, even entire careers built around physical activity.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's break it down a bit. What exactly does a physical education vocational teacher do? It can't all be fitness challenges and pep talks, can it?
Well, it is about fitness, but you're right. It's way more than just that. At the core, they're giving students the skills and knowledge to actually build careers related to PE. And here's the thing, it's not just about like coaching the next generation of athletes. We're talking about becoming health specialists, organizing outdoor adventures. There's a huge range there.
Wow, see, that's not what I would have pictured at all. It seems a lot more diverse than those people probably realize.
Exactly. And, the stuff from RoleCatcher really digs into that. It highlights how these teachers go beyond just the practical skills. They're also instilling professional values, tracking their students' progress, giving them personalized support, even conducting evaluations. It's like a whole other level of teaching, honestly.
So it's almost like they're running mini training programs within a school setting.
That's a great way to put it. It made me wonder, though, where does all this actually happen? Is it all gyms and tracks, or are there other places these programs take place?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's kind of where my mind goes when I picture this job, too.
Right. Well, turns out schools are the typical setting, yeah, but the materials also mention opportunities with, like, private companies, nonprofits, you name it. So there's definitely room to branch out.
Huh. That does open up some interesting possibilities. But let's be real for a sec. Any job where you're dealing with physical activity probably comes with its share of physical demands, right?
Yeah.
What does RoleCatcher say about the work conditions?
They don't sugarcoat it, that's for sure. They acknowledge that there can be physical strain, stress, dealing with different personalities, meeting all the curriculum requirements. It's not always easy.
Yeah, makes sense. But on the flip side, I'm guessing there are some pretty major perks to balance those challenges out, right? Like, I imagine you get to be pretty active yourself, which has got to be a plus for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. RoleCatcher definitely highlights that. They talk about the active lifestyle, the opportunity to really inspire your students. And you know what else? The potential for good work-life balance, which, let's be honest, can be hard to come by in the education field sometimes.
Tell me about it. That work-life balance is key. But you know what else is changing things up these days? Technology. And this is where I think it gets really interesting when you start thinking about its impact on the PE world. Did you ever think virtual reality would play a part in gym class?
It's wild, right? The material talks about how wearable fitness tech, VR experiences, it's all becoming the norm now. And for a PE vocational teacher, staying on top of all that is essential.
Because you're not just teaching kids how to shoot hoops anymore. You're preparing them for a world where technology is shaping how we move, how we train. It's crazy.
It's a whole different ball game compared to like our parents' gym class, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, let's break down the pros and cons a little bit here. What would you say are the most appealing parts of this career path? And on the other side of that coin, what are some of the challenges someone might face?
Well, we talked about a few of the good things already, like being active and inspiring those students. But honestly, I think that work-life balance thing is worth a closer look.
Oh, for sure.
Having that school year schedule, it often means things are a bit more predictable than some other careers out there.
Yeah, I can see that being a big plus for a lot of people.
Right. And if you're already someone who's passionate about like movement and well-being, I bet those longer days probably don't even feel that long.
Totally. But I'm sure there are some trade-offs. Nothing's perfect.
Right.
Right.
And RoleCatcher does mention that there might not be as many chances to like climb the ladder within the role itself.
Okay, so that's something to consider for sure.
And then there's salary. It can vary, of course, but it might not be as competitive compared to other teaching positions.
Gotcha. So definitely things to weigh when you're thinking long-term.
Absolutely.
And I imagine just the workload in general can be a lot, especially with having to stay updated on all that new tech we were talking about.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Plus, let's not forget you're dealing with a classroom full of kids, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a workout in itself, I bet. physically and mentally.
Uh-huh, no doubt.
Yeah.
You got to have a certain kind of personality to handle all that energy. It makes me wonder, though, for people who have a real specialty, say they're like a sports medicine whiz or something, can they carve out a niche for themselves in this career path? Or is it pretty much the same for everyone?
That's a great question. And honestly, I'm not sure. The RoleCatcher stuff mentions specialization, but it doesn't really go into detail about how that works,
It's
unfortunately.
interesting. So maybe that's something for our listeners to explore a bit more then.
It could be a little homework assignment.
Right. Never stop learning, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you're sold on this whole physical education vocational teacher thing. What does it actually take to get there? What's the educational background you'd need?
Well, it's probably more than just being able to ace a fitness test, though that helps, I'm sure.
I would imagine so.
The materials actually highlight a pretty diverse bunch of fields, everything from like kinesiology and sports medicine to psychology. It really shows how much goes into this.
Yeah, it's about understanding not just how the body moves, but also like the psychology behind it, the
Yeah.
motivation, performance, all that.
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. When they break down the essential skills, communication is right up there at the top, even more so than actual physical expertise.
Wait, really? That's surprising. Why do you think that is?
It makes sense when you think about it. You're not just showing kids how to do a perfect, like, tennis serve, right?
Right.
You've got to explain it, the strategy behind it, get them excited to push themselves. All that takes serious communication skills.
And a whole lot of patience, I bet. Teenagers, am I right?
Oh, tell me about it. But for real, the data backs it up. 61% of the role is instruction, 59% is straight up speaking.
Wow, those are big numbers.
Yeah,
Makes you realize how important communication is no matter what you're teaching.
absolutely.
But we can't forget about all that tech we were talking about before. Seems like that plays a huge role too.
Huge is an understatement. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
67% of these teachers are using computers and electronics constantly.
So being tech savvy is basically a requirement these days, huh?
Pretty much. You got to be on top of it.
It's like the modern PE teacher has to be a fitness guru, tech whiz, and master communicator. No big deal.
Right. That's the job description. But hey, it's got to be rewarding for the right person.
For sure. So let's say you've got your degree, you've put in the work, you're basically a superhero gym teacher. Now what? Time to navigate the job market, and honestly, that can be the scariest part sometimes.
Tell me about it. It's a whole other obstacle course.
Right. So how do you actually make your application stand out from the crowd? What did RoleCatcher have to say about that?
Well, they have a few tricks up their sleeve, thankfully. They've got some tools to make that whole process a little less overwhelming.
Overwhelming is a good word for it. It's like
Yeah.
you send your resume out and hope for the best, but who knows what happens to it, like a black hole.
I totally get it. But RoleCatcher has this idea, right, where you can gather all the job listings you find, job boards, company websites, wherever, and keep them all organized in one place.
Okay, see, that already sounds amazing to me. I feel like half the battle is just keeping track of where you apply to what the deadlines are.
Right. It's a lot. But their system lets you do all that, and you can even bookmark jobs with like one click. No more spreadsheets.
That's a game changer.
Okay.
So you've used their system to find the perfect job. How does RoleCatcher help you actually stand out to the hiring manager?
Well, they've got this really cool feature, right, that analyzes the job description, compares it to your resume, and it tells you if there are any gaps in your skills.
Oh, honey. It's like having someone read it over and give you notes before you hit submit.
Basically. And it also helps you tailor your resume to highlight the stuff that's most important for that specific job.
Okay, that's smart. It's like strategy, you know. It's not just a shot in the dark. But you know what always gets me? How do you know a real person is even going to see your application?
I failed that. But get this. For people who want it, they have this direct employer matching service.
Now you're talking. How does that work?
So basically, using your profile and your skills, right, they'll actually connect you with employers who are searching for people like you.
Wow. Okay. So it's like a matchmaking service, but for your career.
Exactly. And it can open up doors you didn't even know existed.
That's incredible. I love that. Well, I think we've learned a lot today. It's safe to say that becoming a physical education vocational teacher is way more than just, teaching gym class.
For sure. It's about getting people excited about movement and fitness, understanding the science behind it all, even the psychology like we were talking about. It's a really cool mix.
It really is. And for anyone out there who's thinking about this career path and feeling a little overwhelmed, which is understandable, it's a lot to take in. Just remember that resources like RoleCatcher exist.
Totally. They've done a lot of the hard work already, so you don't have to.
It's like having a coach in your corner.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of physical education vocational teachers.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep those brains and bodies moving. We'll see you soon.